My son was supposed to give us a grandchild. I was so hopeful, yet again it's a girl. Who's going to carry on the family name? Emily couldn't hold it in any longer. She's 7 months pregnant, emotions are high, and this humiliation was too much. Tears welled up. I'm so sorry, Dad. Really, I'm sorry. Saying sorry isn't going to make that baby a boy, he sneered. He stepped toward Emily, voice threatening. Maybe you should just terminate it. If it's a girl, what good is it? Emily stammered. Dad, please, don't say that. His face twisted further, alcohol and rage blending into something terrifying. You dare talk back to me? Stumbling forward, he raised his foot toward her swollen belly. Today's story deals with the painful reality of a pregnant daughter-in-law suffering abuse from her father-in-law and the silence of a family that lets it happen. Listen until the end and share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. In a quiet suburb outside of Chicago stood the Matthews two-story home. Every morning unfolded the same way. Emily, now in her 7th month of pregnancy, would be in the kitchen preparing breakfast. But that morning was different. Her father-in-law, Richard Matthews, had woken up earlier than usual and was already seated at the dining table. Though a newspaper was open in front of him, his eyes weren't reading. His gaze was fixed on Emily's belly, as if trying to see through it with an unsettling intensity. Dad, breakfast is ready, Emily said as she placed the food on the table. Richard picked up his chopsticks, but before eating, he stared straight at her and asked, What did the doctor say? Emily, already nervous, replied, Oh, they said the baby is healthy. No, he interrupted coldly. I meant the gender. Emily's heart pounded. Still, she thought there was no need to hide it. She answered with a hopeful smile, It's a girl, Dad, a beautiful little girl. Richard's face stiffened. His hand holding the chopsticks trembled slightly, and his lips pressed together tightly. After a few seconds of silence, he said icily, A girl? Again? Again? Emily echoed, confused. You mean because your wife had 2 daughters? She'd known her husband Aaron had 2 older sisters, but had never heard that his mother was unhappy about not having a son. Isn't a daughter a good thing too? Emily offered gently. They say daughters are more caring. Caring? Richard scoffed. Once they marry, they belong to someone else's family. Emily was speechless. She never imagined he thought this way. Footsteps creaked on the stairs. Aaron was coming down, ready for work. Morning, Dad. You're up early, he said cheerfully. Richard stared at him. Aaron, listen up. It's a girl. Again. Aaron sensed the tension between his father and wife immediately. Trying to diffuse it, he said lightly, So what? Daughters are great. Everyone wants girls nowadays. Everyone? Richard's voice rose a pitch. Who's going to carry on our name? Look at your sisters. When was the last time they even visited us after getting married? Aaron couldn't deny it. His sisters had their own lives, and they only visited on holidays at best. Emily felt the situation slipping out of control. In a shaky voice, she said, Dad, maybe next time we'll try again. Next time? Richard snapped. I'm already 70. You think there's going to be a next time? Emily's face fell. It felt like she was being told she was worthless. Her eyes welled up again. Aaron stood up for her. Dad, please, that's too harsh. Emily is part of this family. Family? Richard scoffed. Family contributes to the legacy. She can't even give us a son. What kind of family is that? Emily broke down in tears. I'm sorry. I really tried. I didn't know. Emily, Aaron said, gently pulling her close. You've done nothing wrong. My dad's just stuck in the past. But his words weren't enough to heal her wounded heart. As she felt the baby move inside her, Emily couldn't help but think, will this child be welcomed into this family? The house fell into a cold silence in the days that followed. Richard avoided even seeing Emily, and Aaron became stuck in the middle, powerless to take a side. Emily kept herself busy with chores, but deep down, her anxiety only grew. One Friday evening, Emily returned from her prenatal checkup. The doctor said the baby was healthy and gave her a new ultrasound photo. Looking at the image of her daughter, Emily smiled for the first time in days. "You're beautiful, my little girl." On the way home, she stopped at the market to buy ingredients for dinner. She even picked up supplies to make Richard's favorite stew, hoping maybe he'd soften up. But as soon as she got home, she sensed something was wrong. Richard's shoes were carelessly tossed at the entrance, and she could hear mumbling from inside the house. Carefully, she opened the front door. Richard was in the living room. His dress shirt was wrinkled, and he clutched a bottle of bourbon. His face was flushed red. "Dad, are you okay?" Emily asked gently. He turned to her slowly. His eyes were glazed over, and yet something dangerous glinted in them. "Oh, look who's home, my daughter-in-law," he slurred, staggering to his feet. The smell of alcohol hit her immediately. "Would you like some water?" she asked cautiously. "Water?" he scoffed. "You think water will fix this?" He looked her up and down, especially her belly. "You know what's funny?" he said coldly. "Just because a woman gets pregnant, she thinks she owns the world." Emily's spine tingled. Something in his tone was wrong. "I don't understand, sir." "Don't play dumb!" he suddenly shouted. "Walking in here like you belong, acting like you're some kind of queen, just because you're carrying a girl." Emily instinctively stepped back. "Dad, I'll just go upstairs." She turned toward the staircase, but Richard blocked her way. "Going somewhere? What? Too uncomfortable to be near me?" He raised the bottle, waving it wildly. "I was so excited when my son said you were pregnant. And now I find out it's a girl? Again? Who's going to carry on this family's legacy?" Emily's hands trembled. Tears filled her eyes. "I'm sorry. I'm really—" "Saying sorry won't make her a boy," he hissed. "You should have just gotten rid of her. A girl is worthless in this family." "Please don't say that." "What, don't say that?" His voice rose. "How dare you talk back to me?" And then it happened. Richard staggered forward and suddenly lifted his foot, aiming it right at Emily's belly. "Ah!" she screamed as his foot landed directly on her abdomen. The pain was blinding. Clutching her belly, she collapsed to the floor. "Please, it hurts." Richard didn't stop. "Maybe now you'll learn," he growled, raising his foot again. But a voice rang out from outside the house. A neighbor had heard the shouting. "Is everything okay in there? Should I call 911? Only then did Richard freeze. Emily was still on the ground, doubled over in pain. A few minutes later, paramedics arrived. A neighbor had called emergency services. Emily was nearly unconscious when they took her in. Thankfully, after treatment, the baby was still alive. But the doctor warned, there's a high risk of premature birth. She must avoid stress at all costs. Another shock like that, and it could be fatal. Emily lay in the hospital bed, hooked up to an IV. Aaron sat beside her, but couldn't even look her in the eye. The truth was unbearable. His own father had assaulted his pregnant wife. Emily stared at the ceiling and whispered to herself, "Can I really raise my child in this family?" The hospital room was filled with the sterile scent of antiseptic. Emily lay still under the covers, hand resting protectively on her belly. Beside her, Aaron sat quietly in a chair, eyes fixed on the floor. Hours passed in silence. Emily finally spoke. "Aaron, did you talk to your father?" Aaron hesitated before answering. "He's not home right now." That's not what I meant. Did you say anything to him about what he did? Her voice trembled with desperation. She needed to know how her husband truly felt. Aaron sighed. Emily, my dad's always been like this. He's just intense. And when he drinks... Emily turned to face him, disbelief written all over her face. You're calling that intense? He kicked me in the stomach while I'm pregnant. I know, but he was drunk. He didn't mean... Are you serious right now? Her voice cracked. You're still defending him? That's not what I'm doing. Then what are you doing? She snapped. What about me? What about our baby? Aaron had no answer. Deep down, he knew she was right. But he had grown up under his father's authority, never questioning him. Tell me the truth, Emily pressed. Were you disappointed too? That it's a girl? Aaron looked up. Number Emily, no. A daughter, a son, it doesn't matter. She's our child. Really? Emily asked. Then why didn't you say anything to your father? Why didn't you stop him? Before Aaron could reply, the hospital room door creaked open. It was Richard. Emily flinched instinctively, her entire body tensing. He stepped inside awkwardly and stood near the bed. How are you? Aaron stood. The baby's okay, thanks to the doctors. Good. That's good, Richard muttered, but his tone felt more like obligation than relief. Emily turned to him, voice steady but cold. Do you have any intention of apologizing? Richard's face hardened. Apologize? For what you did to me, she said. You kicked me while I was pregnant. I was drunk, he muttered, as if that explained everything. He seemed irritated now. You're making a big deal out of nothing. She's still my grandchild, isn't she? Emily felt goosebumps rise on her arms. If she's so precious, why did you try to hurt her? Watch your tone, Richard snapped. You're speaking to an elder. Then act like one, Emily shot back. What did you say to me? Richard's voice climbed. Aaron stepped between them. Dad, please. Emily's shaken up right now. If she's so upset, maybe she should keep quiet instead of running her mouth, Richard barked. You kids these days have no respect. Emily couldn't take it anymore. Respect? She said through gritted teeth. You assaulted your pregnant daughter-in-law. That's not just disrespectful, it's criminal. Richard rolled his eyes. These modern women, so dramatic. And then Emily understood. He would never admit he was wrong. He'd rather paint himself as the victim. Get out, she said. What? I don't want to see you. Get out of this room right now. Richard turned red with anger. You ungrateful little... Dad! Aaron stepped in, blocking him. This is a hospital. Please leave. Richard glared at them both, then finally turned and stormed out. The door slammed shut behind him. Silence returned. Aaron turned to Emily, unsure of what to say. She looked up, tears in her eyes. Aaron, can I really live in this family? He said nothing, because he didn't know the answer either. Meanwhile, back in Chicago, Richard was lying in a hospital bed, unconscious. The doctor told Aaron, prepare yourself. His condition is critical. The cause, a massive stroke brought on by excessive drinking. Aaron called Emily in Boston. Emily, Dad's in the ICU. He asked to see you. Emily was stunned. What? Why? I don't know. Maybe to apologize. He doesn't have much time left. She hesitated. The last thing she wanted was to see that man again. But at the same time, he was still Grace's grandfather, and he was dying. Okay, but I won't stay long, she said, for Grace's sake. The next day, Emily traveled back to Chicago with Aaron. At the hospital, Richard lay in the ICU, hooked up to machines. He looked nothing like the man who used to fill the house with his shouting. He was pale, small, powerless. Aaron leaned in. "Dad, Emily's here." Richard opened his eyes weakly. He looked at Emily, then at her belly. Emily stepped closer. "How are you feeling?" He couldn't speak at first. A nurse removed his oxygen mask for a moment. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Emily froze. "I was wrong. A girl is good too." He looked at her stomach again. His eyes softened for the first time. The nurse replaced the mask, and he couldn't speak anymore. But Emily saw it in his face. Something had changed. 2 days later, his condition worsened. The doctor warned that he might not make it through the night. That same evening, Emily suddenly cried out in pain, "It hurts! It's happening!" Aaron rushed her to the maternity ward. The doctor confirmed. It was early labor. "She's 34 weeks. We'll have to deliver now. We can't stop it." Emily was terrified. It was too soon. "Will the baby be okay?" "We'll do everything we can. At 34 weeks, the chances are good." After several hours of painful labor, Emily gave birth to a baby girl. Her cry filled the delivery room, small but strong. "Congratulations, it's a healthy girl." Emily held Grace in her arms, crying tears of exhaustion and joy. "Grace, Mommy's here. I'm going to protect you no matter what." Just then, a nurse entered the room. "I'm sorry, but we just received news from the ICU. Your father-in-law, he passed." Aaron went pale. Emily instinctively knew. It was 2 hours after Grace was born. As if he had waited just long enough to know his granddaughter had arrived. The funeral preparations began, but Emily couldn't attend. She was still recovering, and Grace needed to stay in the NICU for monitoring. "Aaron," she said gently, "I'm going to stay here. I want to be with Grace." He nodded. "Of course, I'll handle the funeral." After the funeral, Aaron returned to the hospital, emotionally drained. "We should start over," he said one night, looking at Emily with tired eyes. "Just the 3 of us." Emily didn't respond. She wasn't sure they could start over. Not really. A few days later, Aaron handed her an old wooden box. "I found this while cleaning out Dad's room." Inside were letters, photographs, and notes, keepsakes Richard had saved over the years. One letter stood out. It was from Aaron's late mother. "Dear, they told me we're having a girl. I'm so happy. Girls are beautiful. They smile more, talk sweeter. I can't wait to raise her with you." Another letter. "What does it matter if we have 3 daughters? They're all our children. Please don't look disappointed. I'm scared they'll grow up thinking they weren't wanted." Emily's eyes filled with tears as she read. Richard's wife had lived through the same pain, begging her husband not to show disappointment in their daughters. The last note was in Richard's handwriting. "You were right. The girls visit more often. They care more. Why did I want a son so badly? I was wrong. Emily, I'm sorry. Grace is my granddaughter and she matters. I was too stubborn." Emily clutched the letter, her feelings tangled, grief, confusion, a hint of understanding and anger all at once. He had changed, but too late. That night, Emily sat in the hospital nursery, holding Grace in her arms while she nursed. She couldn't stop thinking about the letter. "Aaron," she said quietly, "do you think your dad really read those letters from your mom?" He nodded. "He kept them his whole life. I'm sure he did." "Then why didn't he listen to her?" Aaron sighed. "I don't know. Maybe he couldn't let go of what he was taught, what was expected of him." Emily shook her head. Even after everything she wrote, even after seeing how wrong he was, in the end, his will still said that Grace couldn't inherit anything. Aaron looked down. I didn't know about that until after the funeral. The next day, Aaron's sisters came to visit the house. Emily was still resting, and Grace was home now, sleeping peacefully. During the visit, the eldest sister brought up something unexpected. You know what Dad said in the will, right? Aaron looked confused. What are you talking about? He didn't want any of his assets going to Grace. Emily, listening from the hallway, froze. What? She said, stepping forward. The second sister looked at her with sympathy. I'm sorry. He told the lawyer not to leave anything to a granddaughter, not even for her future wedding. Emily stared at them in disbelief. But he apologized. He said he changed. He did. In his heart, maybe, the eldest said, but not on paper. He told us clearly, if Aaron ever had a son, that boy would get everything, not a girl. Aaron was stunned. Come on, he couldn't have meant that. He was clear, his sister insisted. Grace gets nothing. Emily felt the last pieces of her hope shatter. So she'll grow up in this family knowing she was never wanted, she said quietly. Just like your mother feared. Aaron tried to defend him. It was just tradition, Emily. He was raised that way. And you, she asked, staring at him, what do you believe? Aaron hesitated. It's complicated. Emily took a deep breath. It's not. You either believe our daughter deserves the same as any son, or you don't. After the sisters left, the house was silent. Emily picked up Grace and held her close. We can't stay here, she whispered. This isn't a home. That night, she quietly packed a suitcase. She didn't wake Aaron. Early the next morning, she slipped out of the house with Grace in her arms. She didn't look back. Her first stop was the funeral home, now quiet and empty. A few leftover chairs and flower stands still lingered. Emily stepped inside, holding Grace tight. Grace, say goodbye to your grandfather, she whispered. He said he was sorry, but he still couldn't let go of his pride. She looked around one last time. Just then, something caught her eye. A small wooden box left near the corner. A forgotten keepsake, perhaps. Inside was another letter. She recognized the handwriting immediately. It was Aaron's mother's again. Dear, they told me we're having a girl. But you know what? I'm thrilled. Girls laugh more. They're sweet and thoughtful. They make life better. And on the back, in Richard's shaky handwriting, you were right. Again. I was too blind to see it. Emily, I was wrong. Grace is my granddaughter. She's precious. I hope she's happy. Emily choked up. Why couldn't he have written this in his will? Why couldn't he have meant it? As she stood there, the chapel door opened. It was Aaron. I thought I might find you here. Emily didn't move. How did you know? You weren't at the house. I figured you'd come to say goodbye. He noticed the letter in her hand. Is that from Dad? Emily nodded and handed it to him. Aaron read it in silence, his hands trembling slightly. He really did change, he said softly. Not enough, Emily replied. Not soon enough. Aaron looked at her, eyes full of regret. Let's go home. We can talk, figure things out, for Grace. What's there to figure out? She asked. Your dad left a legacy of rejection, and you're still not sure whether to fight it. Aaron shook his head. I am sure now. I'll make it right. I don't care what the will says. I'll build Grace's future myself. Emily's eyes searched his. Even if we have a son later, she asked, Will you still treat Grace equally? She's my daughter, my first, and I love her, no matter what. Emily softened but didn't answer right away. I need time, she said. 1 week. I'll be at my mom's. Aaron nodded, swallowing his disappointment. Okay, but please, come back. We're still a family. Emily hugged Grace closer. She didn't say yes. As she walked out of the funeral home, she whispered to her daughter, "Help me make the right decision, Grace. Mommy needs to choose the life that will make you happiest." She knew her choice would shape both of their lives forever. Emily spent the next week in Boston, staying with her mother. Every day she took Grace out for walks along the harbor, the salty breeze and sound of waves giving her clarity and calm. Aaron's words repeated in her mind, "Please come back. We're still a family." She wanted to believe him, but was love enough if it wasn't paired with action? One evening, sitting on the porch, Emily looked over at her mother. "Mom, I still don't know what to do." Her mother smiled gently, then asked Grace, "Babies have a way of knowing what's best." Emily looked down at her daughter, nestled peacefully in her arms. "Grace," she whispered, "should I go back? Or should we start fresh, just the two of us?" Grace, as if responding, reached up and touched her mother's cheek. And in that moment, Emily knew. The next day, she boarded a train back to Chicago, but not to the Matthews house. She had already signed a lease on a small studio apartment near downtown. Her mother had helped her get everything ready. When she arrived at the tiny place, Emily smiled. It was small, but it was theirs. A home where no one would judge Grace, where no one would question her worth. "Grace," she whispered, "this is our new home. Just you and me." She began a new life. It wasn't easy. Emily worked freelance from home, translating documents while Grace napped. She barely slept. She had no family nearby. But every time Grace smiled, it was enough. One day there was a knock at the door. It was Aaron. "Emily, please, I need to talk." She didn't open the door. "Say what you need to say from there." "I've thought about everything. I know I failed you. I brought the divorce papers." Emily's breath caught. "What?" "You're right," he said. "You've given me more chances than I deserved. I don't want to trap you, but I'm begging. Just let me see Grace sometimes. I can't be a father to her, but maybe I can still be her dad." Emily stood frozen for a moment, then said, "Aaron, not now. Not while she's so young. When Grace is older, she can decide for herself." Aaron nodded, voice trembling. "Okay, but please tell her, I tried." He left the papers at the door and walked away. Months passed. Emily raised Grace with unwavering love. They laughed together, cried together, grew together. Every time she felt like breaking, Grace's giggles gave her strength. One spring afternoon, Emily pushed Grace's stroller through the park. Other families passed by, fathers holding toddlers, parents playing catch. A pang of sadness touched her heart, but she didn't regret her decision. Then it happened. "Mama." Emily stopped. Grace had just said her first word. Tears filled her eyes. "Yes, Grace, I'm Mama, and I love you more than anything." She picked her up and kissed her gently. A few feet away, unnoticed, Aaron stood by a tree, watching them from afar. He didn't come closer. He had promised Emily. Instead, he smiled faintly through misty eyes, watching the daughter he would never get to raise, but would always love. Emily walked home with Grace in her arms. Their tiny apartment wasn't much, but it was full of peace, safety, and love. "Grace, this is just the beginning," she whispered. our beginning. The sun was setting behind them, casting golden light along the sidewalk as mother and daughter disappeared down the quiet street. Two silhouettes, brave and free. A new life had truly begun.